What's up, y'all? I'm back out here on the range, as you can see behind me, on a beautiful sunny day. Temperature's barely supposed to crack 70 out here today. So since I don't have to worry about carrying no shade around, walking back and forth, sweating like crazy out here, I figured we'd stretch things out a little bit for a couple of tests today, and we're gonna start things out with some 300 Blackout. So we got the split jelly contraption going on today with the chrono and bench down here at this end, and then down there at 28 yards, I've got a couple of gel blocks. First test of the day on this one, so we get a really nice clear picture down here. Of course, I'm using a heavy clothing barrier as always, with a layer of denim, fleece, and 2 layers of cotton t-shirt. And speaking of t-shirts, sadly, we lost an absolute legend in the 2A community. Mr. Paul Harrell is no longer with us, so I just wanted to take a quick second to say just how sorry I am to all his friends and family for such a huge loss. So back to what we got going here today. What we're checking out again is some 300 Blackout. This one has been requested by a couple of different people, and it's been a little bit since I picked it up. We're looking at the AAC 115 grain JHP. This is loaded with the Sierra Sportsmaster projectile. Now, as you can see, the velocity on the box is saying 2175, so not the fastest stuff in the world. I'm assuming that's from a 16-inch barrel, but it doesn't say. As you can see, there's your cartridge, brass case. It does have a nice looking opening on this projectile, nice skives. It's supposed to be some really good controlled expansion, so hopefully we do get some nice expansion and don't lose a whole lot of material. Now, as usual, we're gonna send them out of a couple different barrel lengths here. For a shorty, I've got an 8.5-inch PSA. This one's got a 1 1/8 twist on it. And then for the full size 16-inch here, 16-inch barrel, also PSA, and this one's also a 1 1/8 twist. But these should give us some good performance out of both barrel lengths. Supersonic, when it comes to 300 Blackout, is my preferred way to go. So let's get all this stuff set up and see what they do. All right, y'all, let's see what we're working with here. I'm gonna do a 5-round average from each barrel length, starting with this 8.5-inch first. Remember, the box is saying 2175, and again, I'm assuming that's a 16-inch barrel, but I don't know for sure. Those of y'all not familiar with this lab radar, you're gonna see multiple readings from it. The large numbers at the muzzle, and then you've got 5 across the bottom. I've got those set for 15 yards, 28 yards, which is where the gel is, and then 50, 75, and 100. Now, we may not get out there to 100. Sometimes it's a little finicky, but we'll see what we get here. I'm curious to see how far off that 2175 we're gonna be. 2210, 2088, 2116, 2119, and 2157. So we got pretty much all of that 2075, not much loss. Looked like it was a little bit inconsistent though. Let's check out the average. All right, so we had a 5-round average that time of 2138 feet per second, so not far at all off of that 2175. And then as a matter of fact, we had some pretty good spread right there. We had a high of 2210 and then a low of 2088. So again, that gave us a spread of 122 with a standard deviation of 47.2. So I don't know what that spread's all about. I'll look and make sure all the numbers look pretty normal, but I think it just is what it is. Let's get it reset and see what the 16-inch does. All right, let's see what this 16-inch does. Really no doubt now that this is gonna hit that 2175 and then some. Let's see what it does. $23.50. Oh. Ooh, I had a failure to eject. I don't think I've ever had nothing like that go on. Had a little failure to eject there. 23.48, 23.70, 24.84, and 24.60, so well above that 21.75, but I think we got a little bit of a spread right there too. Let's check out the info. All right, so pretty much a repeat right here with this longer barrel, just more of it. So that time we had a 5-round average of 24.02, so well above this 21.75. We had a 5-round extreme spread, that is, of 136 and a standard deviation of 64.4, because again, we had a big old high, 24.84, 24 and then a low of 23.48. So this stuff's got some pretty good spread through both barrel lengths. So that makes me pretty confident that there's no error with the reading or anything here. It just is what it is. But 24.02 right here, and if you remember on that 8.5 inch, it was 21.38. So you talking about, what is that? 264 feet per second difference between these. Now it is double the barrel length, so I guess that's not too far out of the realm of ordinary there. All this being said, I think there's no doubt both of these are going to do a good job in the gel. It's just a little bit concerning seeing that big old spread, but let's get everything set up. Y'all know what time it is. All right, y'all, it's Porky Pig jelly time. I'm gonna put one through each barrel length into the gel, starting with this 8.5 first. Again, I don't think there's much doubt both of these are going to do really nice down there in the gel. Let's see what happens. All right, that should have been absolutely perfect. Let me go down there and check it out. All right, y'all, looks like these things are gonna try to be difficult with me today. That went exactly where I wanted it to go, but curved out the doggone top on me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and send one through this 16 inch. So just in case this one goes a little too closer to the other one, y'all still get a really nice picture between the two. And then I'm gonna come back and send another one through the 8.5 just to see if I can catch that projectile. Let's see what this one does. Hopefully it stays in on us. All right, that should have been another absolutely perfectly placed one. Hopefully it didn't come out the side. Let me go check it out. All right, that one was absolutely perfect down there. So let's see if we can get another 8.5 in there where we can catch the projectile without making a terrible mess. If that thing came out again, I'm gonna tell you what. Let me go check it out. All right, let's check out what we got down here, y'all. That second one, it went exactly where I wanted it. It just kind of faked me out. I didn't see the end of it. Now, I purposely put it behind these two so it wouldn't interfere, but I'll show you from above. It looks identical to this one. You can't tell any difference between this one and the second one from the 8.5 inch. That projectile's probably around here somewhere. It's all in this grass though, because I would say it was at the end of its travel just based on where that second one stopped. But long story short down here, these would definitely bring home some bacon. So on the top, again, that's the one out of the 8.5 inch. You can see this first one here comes in, immediate expansion, disruption, and all kinds of fragmentation. I'm a little bit surprised at just how much fragmentation we got. It is a light round and it's moving pretty fast for what it is. So it stands to reason, but I'm still a little bit surprised. So comes in here, starts to fragment pretty much immediately, not nearly as quickly as the one from the 16 inch though, and that's the big difference between them. I'll show you here in a second, but tons of fragmentation. I mean, pretty much the entire jacket all the way through this track, and then it comes out right there. But the one behind it, the second one from the 8.5 inch, pretty much the same kind of deal. Starts that fragmentation about midway through the track here. A lot of jacket got shed there, and then it stops right here. Some of the little fragments actually touch the end of this 16 inch block, but the bulk of it is probably about 15.5, and you got a ton of mangled up frag expansion. And then of course up underneath those, that's the one from the 16 inch. A little bit of a different story here. You can see it dumps that energy definitely a little bit faster and gets rid of all that jacket a whole lot faster. It starts fragmenting big time also, but you can see it loses every bit of its jacket right here in this initial energy dump. Now you got a lot of lead fragmentation all the way through, but all of the jacket peeled off right here. That just shows you the difference in performance with that velocity velocity increase. Again, all the way through this first block, and this forward momentum looks like it's maybe about 1/4 of an inch from the end of this first block. And once again, you got a bunch of expansion and a whole lot of fragmentation. So as far as your penetration, this first one that actually went out from the 8.5, it went out at 19 inches. So it went a little bit further than the other one for whatever reason. I think it shed more of the material a little bit faster, it looks like, because this second one from the 8.5, again, it is exactly 16 inch. You had a couple little straggly pieces that touched that 16 inch. So, I mean, you have to count those instead of the bulk there. But you can tell the bulk of this held on to a whole lot more of the jacket than this first one. And that's probably why it didn't go quite as far. And then the one from the 16 inch, and sure enough, it's 15 3/4 forward momentum on that. So very, very nice penetration on all three of those. And then here's your closer look. Again, on the bottom, that's the 16 inch. Absolute massive energy dump right there. Follow it on through. There's the projectile. And then if we go back up to the top, there you can see the second one from the 8.5 kind of in the background. That first one, you can see it went out right there. But if we follow those back, you can see where they split. I'll show you from overhead too. Very, very nice energy transfer right there. And then here from above, both of those that you're seeing right there from the 8.5, you can see they look really, really similar, other than the fact, again, that this first one looks like it lost a lot more of the jacket a lot sooner, because you can see there's the projectile from the second one, and it's pretty much encased in the jacket still. All right, let's check out what's left of these projectiles, y'all. This one right here is from the 16 inch. This one is from the 8.5. Definitely a difference here. It's easy to see here in person. This 16 inch lost a whole lot more material, and it lost it a lot sooner, as you saw in the gel. This one here has got a lot more of the jacket still left, and a whole lot more of the lead still left, as you can see. And you could see in the gel on that bottom track, this 16 inch definitely dumped a lot of its lead. That being said, these still held on to, I think, enough to do basically whatever kind of job you might be intending to do with a 300 Blackout. But let's get us a couple measurements on them. We'll start with the weight, and we'll start out with this 16 inch. They both started at 115. This one's all the way down to 68.6, so right much loss on that right there. And then this one from the 8.5 inch is at 90.0, so definitely not as much loss, but a pretty good bit of loss from both of them. And then as for the size on it, you definitely see a difference here. This one from the 16 inch, you got 490 and 508, so pretty nice expansion left on that, even though it lost so much material. And then this one here from the 8.5, you got 556 and 589. So once again, for as much loss as you had from both of these, you still were left with a pretty good chunk of lead with some pretty decent expansion. And there you go, y'all, the 300 Blackout loaded with the Sierra Sportsmaster from PSA. Nice performance down here, typical for 300 Blackout, really, really lightweight. You got a bunch of fragmentation down here. I was hoping not to see quite as much fragmentation, but in any case, especially if you're talking about hog hunting, I know a lot of people use 300 Blackout for hogs. I don't think you have any problem with that right there. Or two-legged threats with this stuff right here, I think this would also be a really, really nice choice for that. Only thing I really saw during this test here that was a little bit concerning, I guess, was those extreme spreads. But even then, you know, you're talking about something that's not intended to be a match round. So is that difference in velocity enough to make a difference? Y'all have to be the judge on that one. All right, y'all, I'm gonna wrap it up right there for a good one to start the day with. I think this was another perfectly fine performance from 300 Blackout Supersonic. It's really hard to get a bad Supersonic 300 Blackout round. Now, I personally don't prefer so much fragmentation like this. If you're talking about hog hunting and stuff like that, I don't suppose it matters that much. And really, even for two-legged defense, it's not gonna matter that much, because you still got plenty of penetration and energy, more than enough energy. So I don't know why, but I just prefer something that doesn't fragment quite that much. I think for me, it would come down to just what kind of deal I can get on this stuff. Honestly, when it comes to 300 Blackout Supersonic, or even 5.56 223 for defensive purposes at least, I'm going to use pretty much across the board, whatever I can get the best deal on, because at this kind of velocity and this kind of energy, you're gonna have a hard time getting something that would not do the job. But let me know down in the comments what y'all think about it. Any of y'all out there have any of this 115 grain Sierra Sportsmaster stuff from AAC? If you do, what barrel length are you running it in? What purpose are you using it for? Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. If you did enjoy the video, take a second if you would and hit that thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and make sure you've got those notifications turned on so you get notified when I upload stuff. Take a second, like I always remind you, and check out those affiliate links in the video description. Anything you pick up after hitting those links, I get a kickback from them towards the channel, so I really do appreciate that. Big thanks again to all my Range Gang members and every single one of y'all for supporting the channel. I've got one more test planned for out here today, so stay on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you soon.